The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast here on May 6, 2020. I guess late night. You can call it 10:30 late night. It's fine. How you guys doing? Another pod this week. Actually, this time rather than me on the road like the last episode, we are now back in my humble abode, back in my studio office. What do you want to call it? Which, by the way, we're going to be doing more video stuff in the near future. On this show. I'm actually waiting to set up my office first. I started working on my office, my backdrop. I want to look more professional. So before I even get to the point where I want to do that, I want to make sure I get out of the way. So that's one of the plans going forward. Got a couple things I'll talk about in the podcast today. But first off, I have a special announcement around the show. And no, it's always good news, not bad news. But basically, this has been an idea I've had knocked around for about 6 to 7 months, about almost a year, actually, to be honest with you, and we're finally going to do it. We're going to have a new series, or a new portion of the podcast we're going to do on this feed, called Rank 'em. Everybody knows I'm pretty obsessed with ranking things, power rankings on football, weekly power rankings, or ranking things in general, top 5, top 10, this kind of thing. Initially, I was going to start to make this. Initially, the idea was months ago to do this on its own podcast feed. But, I've been kind of sort of like I've been torn that for a little while because, number one, I know people listen to my shows. Right now, we already got 3 shows. You got this podcast, of course. You have the Take the Wrestling podcast, my wrestling podcast with my boys, Mike and Joe. And then you have, That's So Christian with my wife. So why add a 4th show? And to not so much to confuse people, but I don't want to oversaturate too much, and I can still do this within the confines of Earnestly Speaking. So, not a new podcast, but a new series of the podcast called Rank 'em. Basically, ranking things that I deem important. It's topic centric, obviously. So rank things I believe I want to rank, and the goal here is to have, obviously, whatever rankings I want to do with it, I'll have guests. It won't be solo. I mean, I don't think I'll do any solo rankings. I think the cool thing about this is I'll have my power rankings and whoever guests I have on the show to do it. We'll have them bring their list as well too, and rank and compare and debate and all that. Which is a cool, obviously, if you heard the show over the course of the last 9 years, in the past, I'll give you an example. So in the past, if my buddy Zach the Degenerate comes on the podcast, or Boston Jack comes on, and he used to do power rankings every Tuesday or Wednesday. We do number 10 is this, and then he number 10, and we'll compare this and that. Same style, pretty much. But this will be topic centric. So, our first episode of the series is going to drop Friday morning. We're recording it tomorrow. We're scheduled to record tomorrow evening rather. It's our old friends G.W. Gross and Ross. We're gonna rank our top 10 favorite characters of The Office. As you know, I finished the show last week, and I'm pretty pumped up about getting into the minutia. We've been talking about having a discussion about The Office, and I figure, you know what? Let's do ranking style. The Office was a show that was dynamic, not just because of the core characters, but also because of the support characters. And there's so many characters that come in on the show through 9 seasons. It's kind of a cool idea to just dive into that and just kind of rank them. And I figure, well, if we're gonna do that, let's launch this damn thing. Now, I'm not necessarily gonna do this every week or every 2 weeks. There's no specific time of how many episodes I'm gonna do of this particular series. I'll do it when I feel like doing it. But I got a couple ideas down the pike with people about this idea. I've had topics already lined up to tackle. There'll be some wrestling related content on this too. I might rank my top 10 WWE champions of all time, or this and that. I have ideas of doing top Metallica albums, or not top Metallica albums, ranking all their albums, and I'll find somebody, a friend, or somebody that would want to compare notes with me on that topic. That's the idea. Ranking Star Wars movies. There's a lot of things on the pike I'm going to work on. And actually, one idea I think is going to come up. I think I'm going to execute probably next couple of weeks. Is I want to rank the 6 Chicago Bowl championship teams: 91, 92, 93, 96, 97, 98. I rank them and debate them. Especially allude what's going on with the the documentary Last Dance, all that. Kind of feels apropos to try to get it out there. So anyway, rank them. New podcast series on part of the Earnestly podcast will be launched this week. Again, like I said, I'm not gonna have it every single. I'm not gonna have this every single week. There's gonna be no scheduled time when this come out. It just come out when I tell you it comes out. That's all. So I figure it's best to just not have things sticking to schedules because every time you stick to schedule, it doesn't seem to work out in the end. So that's the plan moving forward with the show. So I'm pretty excited about this, and we'll have a first episode of the series on this Friday scheduled, dropping here on the podcast feed, ranking our top 10 offense characters between me, Rosalind Ross, and G.W. Grass. It should be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to that. We've been looking for this episode for quite a while. So, and plus we have been podcasting in a couple months too on top of that. So, alright, so a couple things I'm gonna get on my chest. Okay, I wrote about this actually this week, dropped it today on the blog, my takeaways from the, Last Dance documentary, episodes 5 and 6. If you have not seen it, you want to read it in written form, it's on earnestchristian.com, of course, my website. But I actually want to also present my takeaways here as well too on the podcast, just to have it there. A couple of takeaways of the show of the documentary, episode 5 and 6. I teared up because obviously there was a Kobe focus early on the show. I teared up during the Kobe Bryant portion of the documentary, and just looking back at Kobe and Mike and how they just the competitive drive those two guys, and I remember obviously they showed the All-Star game, the connection of Kobe's first All-Star appearance starting in the All-Star game in 1998. And I remember that game very, very clearly because I actually taped that game on VHS. And I remember rooting for Jordan, running a few times rooting for Jordan. Because I've said it in the past, I wasn't the Kobe guy because I thought he was very arrogant. And I wanted the old man to kind of take him to school, and which he did. I used to constantly watch that and rewind parts when Jordan would just fade away on him and this kind of the old man moves and all that. Obviously, as you know now, 22 years later, my affinity for Kobe Bryant is obviously through the roof. And again, I have nothing but respect for Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, of course. But yeah, that was, it was cool how they did that and the footage and just Mike, talking about how like this guy's going to one-on-one. And it was really, really cool to see the inside of that too. Again, this is a very authentic documentary. You see the inside, you've seen the side of Michael Jordan we've never seen before. So, and here is no exception. They got into the media stuff with Jordan and the gambling, the gambling rumors and all that, and how this is the first time he got pushed back. And I was 13 years old at the time this was going on, 12, 13 years old. And I obviously heard about it, back then too. But again, social media, allowed a divide, not having social media rather, allowed a divide to have, Jordan was able to have his space, if you will. Even though it was a big deal, quote unquote, I can only imagine if that situation was going on in 2020 and Jordan was playing in 2020. Michael Jordan, skated by a lot, due to lack of access in comparison to today's athletes. And I imagine Michael Jordan seeing today how what LeBron goes through now with the media, and every little thing is being pinpointed and pigeonholed and under a microscope. I'm sure Michael Jordan is thankful he's not being raised and he's not playing in this era of basketball, because the perception of Michael Jordan might be a lot different now than it was in 1993, 94. And I might write a piece about this too. I was talking to my cousin on text earlier today about this. I was making a case, and it's going to go according to my rankings too when I do my rankings on the Bulls, hopefully. That the 92 Bulls team, the second championship team, that won 6-7-15, to me, was actually just as potent as the 96 team that won 72 games. You know, the only difference I've always said for years is that the 96 team was stacked, top to bottom. You got Ron Harper, former All-Star. Tony Kukoc at one point was considered the greatest player in basketball, not named Michael Jordan, around the world. But the 92 team is really, 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 really good. And I've been watching, you know, some of the old footage from the playoff games against Cleveland in the conference finals, against New York in the semifinals, of course, the Portland series and in the finals. You know, I would say the competition back then was actually better than it was in '96, only because of I mean, obviously expansion, you know, added to that. You know, you brought in two more teams in '95, Vancouver and Memphis. Well, Vancouver became Memphis, and Toronto, of course, the Raptors. So I thought that helped the Bulls a little bit too. 96 Bulls anyway. I think look, gun in my head, I'll probably still lean the 96 Bulls anyway, but the 92 team was really, really good. And you're getting peak Jordan, you're getting, in my opinion, peak Pippen. Horace Grant was a better all-around player than Rodman was in 1986. You know, with Rodman, obviously he's a great rebounder and all that. He's the greatest rebounder of all time, arguably. But also, you're getting the baggage too. So, my point was, you can make a case for the 92 team to be in the conversations as good as 96 team. Watching Jordan shit on the Knicks again, you know, and I spoke about this on another podcast. So I did my buddy Frank a couple episodes back. You can check it out on the log. You know, you're seeing the 3-week period where I consider Michael Jordan's greatest peak of his entire career, and it was Game 3 of the East Finals in '93. You know, winning 4 straight against New York, being out 0-2, and then beating Phoenix in the finals in 6 games. That was Michael Jordan's greatest 3 weeks of his entire career. You know, that dude absolutely shitted on Patrick Ewing, shitted on Charles Barkley, the two guys, two Hall of Famers who probably should have gotten in the ring, but would have gotten in the ring had Jordan not existed. You know, Michael Jordan destroyed a lot of those guys, you know, in terms of championship aspirations. The Isaiah stuff came up again, of course, you know, and yeah, I still place a lot of blame on Michael Jordan for Isaiah not being on the team, understanding that, yes, camaraderie, maybe there's a lot of guys he didn't want on the team, but I do think that Magic Johnson should be looked at more, you know, as a reason why he wasn't on the team, and probably even bigger than that, Chuck Daly, Isaiah's own coach, didn't vouch for him, who actually coached the dream team as well too. That sucks, you know, and I think we should put blame probably a little more spread out. Jordan obviously should get more blame, but then again, you look at how everything transpired with Isaiah and the Pistons and how they, you know, the battles against the Bulls, and then how the way Isaiah acted after the Game 4 of the 1991 conference finals. You know, I kind of don't blame Jordan to some degree, but again, it's not just Jordan's deal to choose that. You know, a lot of politicking involved in there. Isaiah Thomas was one of the 5-6 best players of that decade. You know, of the 10 years leading up to the Dream Team. He deserved more than Chris Mullin. He deserved it more than Clyde Drexler. I argue John Stockton as well, too. But again, a lot of politics, camaraderie, all that mattered, too, as well. Tony Kukoc, underrated as hell for the last 3 Bulls teams. You know, this is, again, as I just said, a guy you would consider the best player on the planet, not named Michael Jordan. And you got a little bit of love in the. I'm glad they really cleared out these stuff, because obviously during the Dream Team and when Kukoc was playing on Croatia, you know, and you know, the Bulls had his rights, and obviously Jordan and Pippen felt insulted by Jerry Krause because of him looking ahead, and Kukoc could be the next guy, and you know, Pippen and Jordan made it a point to shut him down during the Olympics. And to Tony's credit, man, that guy stepped up in the second game, in the gold medal game. Obviously Croatia lost, but you're not beating the Dream Team, obviously. And I love how they clear all it up, and Tony's a teammate in the late '90s, and Jordan and Pippen all praise him for being a great teammate and a great player for the team. Good to see that. Really was good to see that. Looking back at Charles Barkley too, the '93 finals. Obviously during the episode, God, he was so good. He was so good. And he was great in the Olympics too. He was actually the best player in the Olympics. He could, lead and score and all that. And it's funny because that Dream Team situation for Barkley happened. He had just gotten traded from Philadelphia, weeks before, if you want to call that. And then the Dream Team experience led up to his MVP season in Phoenix, and they go to the finals and lose to the Bulls, of course. But Barkley's greatest stretch. between the trade, Dream Team, MVP season, only finals appearance. Yeah, that was something, look at that and benchmark that, and Barkley, of course, remembering how great he is. He was so fucking good. He really was. Willow Bay was on the show too, on the episode. I'm not sure which one it was, but Willow Bay used to co-host Inside Stuff on NBC. I grew up watching that. I know it's still on today on NBA TV, but I don't watch it now. It's not my thing. It was my thing when I was a kid. So it's okay, not bad. She was really, really good. I love how you addressed the whole political backdrop, with the congressman in North Carolina in 1990, and Jordan not being up front about supporting him. He obviously donating money to his campaign against the racist opponent in the race. Excuse me. And obviously it addresses the quote that he allegedly said, but obviously that's still been up for debate. Did he actually say Republicans buy secrets too? I mean, that's always been a thing that's been attached to Jordan, and obviously it's been some pushback with in years after that with Jordan not being, up front and being publicly supportive of urban and minorities in a way, because he want to risk alienating, quote unquote Republicans and whites and all that. And even I'll admit, I was at times critical, but I'm glad that they got into that. And actually, I agree with Jordan there. And I agree. I'm a basketball player. I'm not a role model. That's why I've always known Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley's always been honest about that kind of stuff. Charles Barkley says, I'm not a role model. I'm not paid to be a role model. I'm paid to play basketball. And at least Charles Barkley owned that shit. That's why I always know Charles Barkley. God, I mean, and back to Barkley, he was so fucking good, man. But makes you appreciate how good Jordan was when he beat him in the finals. It really was. So, episode 5 and 6 was great. I loved it. I had a great time watching it. I'm looking forward to these last two. I've been told that episode 7 to 8 are actually the episodes where you're going to start looking at Jordan a little bit differently. It's going to go into his father's death. It's going to go into more gambling stuff and him retiring the first time and all that. I'm looking forward to watching this portion of the documentary. I cannot wait to Sunday. So that's that. What else got going on here before I go? I don't want to spend too much time on here because I'm gonna go downstairs and watch some TV. Yeah, but doing some new house projects today. This is week 8 of the pandemic, or the lockdown for us here in South Florida. So we started doing more projects today. First couple weeks when we actually locked down, we were actually on fire for that. My wife and I, we went through our kids' room, our room, our garage, this and that, kitchen, got rid of a lot of shit. Took shit to Goodwill, gave shit to people they might want stuff. We would, minimalism, trying to downsize some degree, clean up, all that. And then, I mean, obviously we got kind of lazy in the last couple of weeks because of, it's been the same old. It's been Groundhog Day every day for the last 7.5 weeks. Today we got back to grinding again in the house and, get rid of shit and whatnot, and it's been good. Tomorrow I'm hoping to get my garage clean finally for good. A lot of stuff piled up in there. A lot of stuff I took from upstairs to downstairs, and hopefully get rid of that. So we'll see how that plays out tomorrow. Yeah, I want to get this shit done. I just want to get this house cleaned up and get rid of crap I don't need anymore. I'm telling you, as I get older, man, I really don't want things anymore. I just want, this is why I'm kind of thankful I'm living in a digital era. We don't need to keep a lot of bulk anymore, like CDs and DVDs. You can easily convert those things to to your hard drive or whatnot and condense in the way you need to. I don't know. I'm thankful I live in this era. I can do that. It's a lot easier to navigate. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow we get the garage done and all that. Also, before I go, I didn't actually have a chance to. I forgot to mention this 2 days ago on the last episode. I mentioned Don Shula passing away, obviously, but Sam Lloyd, and so many people may not know who he is, but if you watch the show Scrubs, he's the guy that plays Ted. Ted is my favorite character on the whole show. I'm a huge Scrubs fan. It's my favorite sitcom, alongside The Office, of course. He was the doofy lawyer, the hospital lawyer that always seemed to not get it right. Always got picked on. But Sam, he passed away after a long battle with a brain tumor, a lot of health issues the last couple of years. So it wasn't really a shock. He was right on the way out. Honestly, it's sad to even say it that way, but he was, I don't know a lot of his work, but he had an a cappella group also too. He did that actually was used in the show as well, which I loved. I love Sam Lloyd. He was my absolute favorite character on the show. He was a goof, but he was a likable character, and you always rooted for him. When he had his first girlfriend, on the show, was it Gooch? It was great. It was incredible. I think we'll talk about more on my other podcast with my wife, because my wife is also a big fan of the show, and she loves Sam Lloyd as well. But rest in peace, Sam Lloyd. I think he was like 57 years old. He was not that old. He was in his 50s. So that's what's going on. I mean, rest in peace, Sam Lloyd, of course. But that's what's going on right now. I'm doing house projects. Still waiting on unemployment. Obviously, that's another thing I'm waiting for. Waiting on whether my job will open up next month or so. I think May's out of the question now. And that's about it for now, really, I guess. I don't know if anything else I want to talk about. I mean, we'll launch the Rankum series on this show Friday morning. We're going to record that tomorrow night. Hopefully things work out with Roz and G. And then hopefully I'll be able to do a couple more episodes of that in the coming weeks. I have a couple of things, like I said, I want to get to and record. So I guess that will do it for now. I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. The website, I'm writing like crazy all week long at earnestchristian.com. Until then, stay safe, stay up, take care of yourselves. I love you guys. Take care, and see ya.